Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 210 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to upgrade our power production with oil residuals. Enjoy! While things are going, I was kind of noticing lots of exclamation marks, which are not good. And investigating. We are almost out of power. Because the accumulators ran out. Of course, it's about to be morning, but still. It's kind of curious that these don't seem to be running very hard. Wonder why. Are they not properly connected? Doesn't seem like it. Oh, because there are no blocks. So it's burning wood as hard as it can. Or at least some of these are anyway. It seems like perhaps this ratio was incorrect because only some of these are on. And yet all of the steam engines seem to be going full blast. That's kind of interesting. Just looking at this, it looks like we need at least twice as many of them. And those aren't running because those are based off of alien artifacts. So we have no fuel blocks. Is this running? Nope. Could just be the power of the factory is just gone. Well, it says we have fuel oil. But no residual gas. So that's something we can work on. So we kind of have a couple of problems here. One, it seems like this calculated ratio for the steam engines is incorrect. We need more residual gas to make more fuel blocks to burn. And also probably we just need more accumulators as well. You know, power is good now because the sun's going up. But ideally, the factory would be able to survive even without the solar panels. So it's kind of a little inconsistent that it cannot. Before we start changing anything, let's double check that we don't have access to anything special. Looks like we would need cobalt or titanium. So tier 3 ore sorting to get better power generation. And I'm kind of curious why that ratio didn't end up being right. So we've got 20, 10, and 40. Is that what we have here? Seems like it. 20, 10, and then the 40. So is the neighbor bonus taken care of properly? Or do we calculate it manually? Well, could have just forgotten it. It seems like the majority of these have a neighbor bonus of 3 reactors next to them. Or 3 burners. It says reactor here, but it's the same thing. And 3 isn't a selection. But it does seem like basically 10 of them are running. So we probably need to double this up. And that's going to be kind of annoying, kind of tricky to do. All these power wires need to go to very specific places, so it would be super annoying to do it any other way. It's kind of unfortunate, but we do basically have the capacity, so it'd be kind of a shame not to use it. But another thing to consider is that this is kind of just the secondary way of making power. It's really only a backup in case these fuel blocks run out, so we might be able to delay the inevitable of having to rebuild this with a different ratio by just at least maxing out what we have, because this is only 1 out of 4 different setups. Now this setup won't normally run, but these should be, or at least if the fuel blocks were available. And at least right now it looks like we have spare production capacity because this isn't running. It's just no residual gas, and residual gas is a byproduct. And it can be produced in a couple of different ways. The big one is we can add steam to oil residuals to make residual gas, and then turn that into fuel. And if you remember, probably the last item that we haven't really processed that's in our storage warehouses here is 636,000 oil residuals from processing those oil sands. So that would be a lot of energy that we can convert. It won't last forever, but it's certainly a big supply of energy that we could use. So that would be nice. And what else could we do? Well, another way of producing at least some amount of residual gas is we can break down mineral oil into mostly synthesis gas, but also residual gas. And this is pretty relevant because when this oil processing setup is running, it creates two byproducts. Well, three, I guess, when you consider nutrient pulp. But the nutrient pulp can be processed down into more oil and glycerol that we're getting rid of. But the big one is mineral oil. And it looks like it hasn't quite maxed out, but when this is running, it's basically throwing away mineral oil and glycerol. So we can take that mineral oil and break it down into some amount of residual gas, which would be nice, which could be turned into more fuel. But the big one is the synthesis gas. And we don't have too many unlocked uses of it quite yet. It looks like we could basically research it though. It's unlocked behind this titanium casting, specifically because of all of this. Let's see. It would allow us to break it down into useful things. Basically, random gases you might need. Or you can create it from hydrogen and carbon monoxide. It seems like the big one, at least for making fuel, would be to make solid fuel from coke. I don't like researching all that stuff if we can't really use much of it. But we do want to improve the efficiency of our energy production here. Nuclear power isn't that far away once we have tier 3 ore sorting, but it seems like we are having some energy problems right now. So we probably should research the ability to use all this, but before we get into that, we want to make sure that it's actually energy efficient to convert it into solid fuel. And we can make that with this one right here. Let's just put, how about 2 in there? Just so we can figure out what this is. So we're putting in 2.5 megajoules of coke, and we're getting 2 fuel blocks, which is worth 12 megajoules each. So 25. So that's a times 10 increase to energy density, which seems really good. So this seems like a fantastic way of generating energy. So that said, we should probably research this. So let's just go through all the things here. One is the titanium, which we really can't make yet, but it's just a processing chain. Add carbon, add chlorine, add titanium. Then you get titanium tetrachloride, which could be made into a sponge, which then you can make into the ingots and you can pour them out. But we'll be doing all of that later. And then that locks all of the next tier of the chemical plants, because they require the titanium, and we already have the green circuits now, which is nice. But for a lot of these, it will also require reinforced concrete bricks, which we can do. And it looks like it unlocks a lot of the advanced chemical processing chains. Like instead of adding the gas condensates to other processes, we can actually just break them down. Get coke, naphtha, and methane, which actually seems really good because those are all quite valuable. Or we can make mineral oil from naphtha, turn ethylene into polyethylene using the blue metal catalyst, which is a new catalyst from cobalt and titanium. And we also have a new catalyst from platinum and mercury. And these unlock a high output way of processing gases. So basically we can just make oxygen from compressed air and never have to deal with the nitrogen. Or get nitrogen and never deal with the oxygen. And kind of the same thing with electrolyzing water. Get the oxygen, don't worry about the hydrogen, or the other way around. So those are those chains. Can't really do many of them, but it's in the way, so we'll take care of it so we can get to what we want, the synthesis gas. So if we don't want the gas, we can break it down into carbon monoxide and hydrogen. And that carbon monoxide can be turned into dioxide, which goes into lots of things if we wanted to do that. Or we can go the other direction, which is interesting. I don't think we really have much carbon monoxide as an output of various processes, but that's certainly an efficient way of getting rid of it if you want to turn it into fuel. We can use the blue metal catalyst, which we can't make yet, and some hydrogen, and turn them into all the different gases, which is pretty good. green metal catalyst, which we can take care of now, as a way of getting rid of carbon dioxide to make methanol. Which does seem pretty good. Just as a curiosity, how is the carbon dioxide in our factory doing? I believe it is being stored here. And it's not maxed out or anything. I don't even know if we have a dump for it. We probably do. Actually, I think it's... yeah, all the way down here in a very random place. But that's because this is the final dump, I think, of carbon dioxide. So that's why this is set up like this, is because when it overloads, it goes into here and gets processed away. So we kind of already have a dump for it, but we have a second dump for it now. Or we can make naphtha, which is pretty good. So you can see that synthesis gas is a quite useful gas that you can basically make from anything and then turn into anything. But for our purposes here, we want energy. So we'd want this last one, which we basically have a coke, add the gas, and get solid fuel out of it. So pretty good. I do really want to start using our new circuits here, but it's kind of bad when the power runs out in the factory, so we kind of want to take care of that first. Well, as far as getting rid of the oil residuals, that's pretty straightforward. We already have a place to process them, so we just need the logistics and the logic to use them up, which we have down here. And that oil is going down, but we're probably just using it on things right now. But it looks like we're already requesting any available residual gas from the factory, which is nice. Let's see. I guess we don't have to worry about this quite yet. How about we use rate calculator to figure out how much residual gas we would need for our whole setup. So we need 87, or about 100, which is an easier number to remember. Alright, let's calculate this out real quick. Want residual gas. We can make the second tier. And we want 100. So it looks like 2 machines will get the job done here. We're probably also going to need to change the way the fuel block logic works, because right now I think it just turns on when we have too many fuel blocks, but we actually would want to change that to based on the battery level if we're just limitlessly making them. So you would think you'd have some steam crackers around here somewhere. There we go. I guess we can just kind of put them in this little square here. Let's use drones for this. So we'll put in a request depot. Asking for residuals, and we want this to be a main storage location, so let's just put 10 drones in there. We do need some steam. We have access to the second tier of electric boilers. Might as well use the efficiencies. So we basically need 1 per machine here. And how much water is that? 100. Don't know if we have any water running nearby, but we can also just use a water pump jack here. So there we go, that goes in all of that. Then we have our residual gas output, which is a little off center here, but we can kind of make it work. Although we do want to have a pump in here, so we can control this with some logic. We have to go through all of this here. It's kind of a lot going on. But how about let's increase this to 40%. So 20,000. If it goes below 20,000, turn on. And because the limit for these is set to 10,000, it means they will continue to run. Still need to get the fuel blocks there. And also put some modules in. But we need to concern ourselves with how these blocks will get consumed. So how is the rest of this set up? Let's see. These are set to below half. And these are below a quarter. Let's change just a bit. So that's 50%. Let's make this 40%. Then we'll make this 30%. So it no longer cares what the status of that chest is there. We need to connect this to the accumulators. So now it's been disabled. And we have a great deal of stuff to dump. We haven't really used these barrels in forever. We probably won't ever want to use these barrels ever again. Because the drones can just move them and we'll have somewhere to put them. I think we did barrels simply because it was an easier way to store things rather than a bunch of storage tanks. It's just a little more organic, let's say, to just randomly put stuff in a bunch of warehouses. That's not too relevant anymore. Let's see, it looks like it's getting power from somewhere else, so it doesn't even need these anymore. So we don't need really much of any of this. We're pretty close to the point where we can just tear all this down. But let's convert all this over. And now that's all going in there. And it looks like drones are being sent now. Yep. So now we just need to wait for them to arrive. But we can pick up a big old fistful of residuals here to jumpstart the process and see how it works. It is the middle of night now. Wonder how the accumulators are holding out. You know, so far so good. It seems like only certain situations do they run out. Looks like they need slightly faster inserters. And then they're all going. Basically doing their best to fill this up. And they won't really be able to, because all of these blocks are just going to be generated. So the actual limiting factor is going to be the liquid fuel. And out of residuals. So it seems like it does go through it pretty fast. Because of the quantity of things we're shipping, maybe we should do 20 of them. We can see it's definitely burning away the mineral oil now. And how is all of this going? Well, the farms are only going at part speed. But I think that's because of the agricultural modules improving their efficiency. The actual machines doing production are all at 100%. That said, we could put speed modules on all this stuff. And I wonder if we have access to any higher tiers. Well, certainly the purple ones we can't make. But we do. I always want to keep checking if we have any stuck in here, and we inevitably do, but in very small quantities. I'm not immediately seeing any. Just looking at the bottom of the list here. Yeah, it's not that big a deal if we handcraft a few extras. We actually have quite a few we're going to need to craft here. You can see by how long it's taking to craft all this. I wonder why specifically. I think it's just because we don't have the intermediate components in our inventory anymore to save space. So that said, we should probably fly up here. Actually, this might be an excellent opportunity just to add them to our growing machine production area here. Because I imagine they have pipes in them, making them a prime candidate. Yep. So it needs some glass, so an extra thing we need to send down here. But otherwise, I think everything else would fit in well here. So we need to make the refineries, and then the filtration units. And I don't think there's any upgrades to these Do we do filtration units? Oh, we actually have. But we only have one tier. Is that because there's no additional tiers yet? Yeah. So we'll just have to throw speed modules in there, I guess. Alright, let's find something with 2 tiers to it. So we can do something like this. We'll just grab it. Plop it down again, except without the requester chests in there. The robots come to help. And then we'll switch this over. Oil refinery number 1. And also number 1. And then make number 2. And store number 2. As far as quantities, well, I guess we'll go with 200. Seems like we wouldn't need that many of them. But most of these other machines are storing 200, so we should probably do something similar. Alright, we'll set that one up, and then this one needs to be set up. Since there's nothing in there, I can just kind of come through here and get rid of those. So I think we need to get glass up here. Pretty sure it's already been sent via train, so we just need to push the resources up. And actually, getting it out of here is going to be a little tricky because of everything that's happening here. It looks like we can. And when that's in place, production should begin. See, we did need some steam crackers. They're pretty similar as well, so we might as well make them. We had enough in our inventory already, but since we did use them, we might as well get this set up properly. Steam cracker number 1. Same here. Into number 2. And same there with the same numbers. So why isn't this running? Stone bricks. It has requested the bricks. They just haven't gotten here quite yet, even though they're right there. Ah, I see what they're doing. They're taking forever because they're grabbing bricks from this because it's a storage warehouse. So we can't quite do it that way. Because otherwise they will pick it up because the storage warehouse has priority over the provider chests here. So we can't quite do it that way, unfortunately. Let's teleport down there and give it a fix. So we can't do that with any of these. We will have to do it where there is a storage chest here, making the request instead. Let's see, is that a good place to put those? I'm not sure that it is. Because we do actually use the stone for things, but it doesn't get used for that much, and the things we're using it for now are these repair packs and I believe belts. And neither of those use bots, so we probably can store it in this way still. But this can't be like this. We're going to have to use the storage chest for it. Sadness. Wonder if any of the other brick suppliers were set up that way. See, this one was not. So hopefully everything else is working properly. I guess we can come up here and look at that giant line of bots. So I guess they have to deliver their resources first before we can see if it works. Well, we do have these concrete bricks right here. So probably for the same reason. Yeah, this has to be here. Yep, looks like it's kind of fixed itself here. Well, we needed 10 of them, so we'll grab those, and I guess we can put the other steam cracker in there. And it looks like the oil processing plants are working too. Alright, well that was faster than handcrafting them. Which is the point of Factorio. So basically these machines are just going to run until we get completely overloaded on fuel blocks. Which is fine. That's kind of what we wanted to do. Alright, residual gas completely filled up. Because there is no fuel oil left. But all these are running at full blast, so they're trying. Or at least these ones are trying. We should probably start at the beginning and work our way down. So first, these are definitely not producing fast enough. So, perhaps some speed modules to give them a little help. We might also have belt speed limitations, so there's only so much we can do here without just rebuilding the whole thing, and I'd rather not do that. I mean, it already basically seems like it's maxed out the 2 belts. Although there is kind of something we can do. It's a little janky, but we can kind of have something coming in here for the outside machines. There we go, something like that. Doesn't quite max things out here, but it helps. It certainly maxed this belt out. So can we flip this around and have it fit here without having to move anything? Kinda. Okay, so now these could stand to have some more speed modules. Well, the sun's about to go down and the accumulators haven't fully charged, so that kind of gives you an idea that the size isn't quite right for our factory's power needs, but I guess the way it's set up, that if it's above 50%, then only the solar panels are charging it, so perhaps, you know, everything needs to be increased in size. Solar panels and the accumulators, as well as all of this. Come on, bots, get here. I could have placed it myself already. I know most of the farms are going, so that's pretty good. And we are starting to build up on the vegetable oil, which means we can stand to have some speed modules in here now. Looks like this is building up a little bit, so more speed modules. And are we out of range of bots? Kinda. Let's expand their range because I want my inventory curated. And we're finally down to these machines here. Oh, I guess there was a few more in there. We needed 12. Well, this seems to be running the best it can. At least with the belts available to us without going completely nuts here. I'm just rebuilding all of this, which I don't think is really necessary. We've increased production to make as much fuel as is available, and you can see we completely filled up already, so I guess it worked. Guess we'll see in a second because you can see how quickly the accumulators are draining, so they are perhaps not big enough for our factory's output. So we have all these depots full of fuel. Of course, those are going. All of this is connected and it's only partially running. But it's definitely enough to keep everything charged up. So that's good news. It means we don't have to expand this quite yet. That what we have available now is good enough. And based on the quantity of energy that are in these blocks, you know, 50 megajoules is a lot. They don't stack very big. But man, is the energy in there. So I don't think we need to worry about the synthesis gas for now. We are unfortunately throwing away mineral oil, but this isn't new. We've been throwing it away for a long time now. And the process seems to be working, so I'm okay leaving it the way it is for now. If this wasn't an infinite resource, you know, if this was mined out of the ground, I would care a lot more about making the most out of that mineral oil, but since these are just from farms, I'm less concerned about it because we can make as much as we want. It looks like it's not quite keeping up in places here. Because one of these will produce 1.57. Well, we should be able to with the inserters. It could just be because it comes in bursts. The inserters are having trouble keeping it full all the time, but keeping the accumulators charged, so for now, what more can you ask for? The situation might not be the same if we were doing a lot more work with the factory, so we'll have to visit this again. But we're slowly going through our residuals now. It would be better if these were all matched in size, but I really don't want to rebuild things unnecessarily, especially if we're going to do nuclear power and potentially move or rebuild a lot of this anyway. So I want to give myself more work than is necessary. So as long as this is just barely enough, I think we're okay, and it does seem to be barely enough. But it probably wouldn't be the case, though, if we were actually doing research or a lot more work at the factory, because right now the factory is almost idling in a way. When you look at these resource requirements, that all of the energy right now is just going into electronics assemblers. So really, the only thing the factory's doing is making green circuits, and that's it. So that's kind of a problem. That if it was really doing anything more than this, that we'd probably have energy issues. So okay, let's upgrade these, I guess. I don't wanna. Well, and upgrading them would be even kind of more annoying because they're using these offshore pumps right here. We don't necessarily need to upgrade everything, because expanding these ones down would get in the way of all of these circuits, but after this point, all this stuff is on the same circuit network anyway. So it's really not that big a deal to expand it down. So let's just take care of that real quick. Well, I did notice one thing. I don't know if it's necessarily an issue. We're out of mineralized water here, which really shouldn't be the case, because we should be producing more of it down here, but it looks like we have it. It's just, it's a long way for the liquid to slosh, and that's okay, because the place where we would want the mineralized water is here at stone processing. It coming all the way down here is just to get rid of extras, and we probably don't have any, but why is it running even though we have nothing? Is it because propane gas is low? Oh, look at that. We're actually low on plastic. Or I shouldn't say low, but to the point where it actually needs to start producing it again. So I guess all of those plastic pipes finally got used up. Okay, so that's fine. Let's check to see if we have any steam engines in any of our inventories. And if not, we can make some more. Well, as it turns out, we already made some. So we're starting to get to the point where a lot of this is already becoming available for use. Awesome. Well, then that means all we have to do is just make the blueprint and let the robots help us. We got some extra things we don't really need we can disconnect. So basically what we need to do is copy some of this stuff down. Probably something like this. Do the same thing right here. Clear out some trees while we're at it. We gotta extend the network a bit so the robots can help. There we go, they should have complete reach. So we've got more power poles to get rid of here. Copy this again. Line it up, and everything else lines up, which is good. Expand the heat pipes a bit. We do have a bit of a problem of properly powering all of the pump jacks without using power from these actual units, but I think I just will, since at least these ones will get their power from up here. And it would be kind of annoying to handle things, although I suppose we might be able to with stuff here, but I guess it depends on how many we would need. So, with all of these, it's set to exactly 1.2K. And one of these makes 450, so we would need 3. Let's see, we do want to do an upgrade planner here. because we want to get rid of these plastic pipes and then turn them into ceramic pipes instead. So we can connect these together, being careful not to connect the center part. And let's see, they're all connected right now, but they shouldn't be, because this is open, so they are cross-wired in here somehow. So we got to figure out how that happened. Because it's connected right here, when we would want it to just be connected through here instead. Okay. It does say 319, which is a little weird, but I think it's just because this end one isn't connected. So there's our 320. And then we need some location to put these pump jacks. We could try to put them here to be powered by that other side, but it might be easier to just do something like this. So they are powering their own pump jacks, which is kind of a no-no, but it's certainly much easier given the way the setup is currently constructed. Power output has greatly decreased. Does that mean we're finished making the green circuits for now? Seems like it. So if we follow this to the end, we should have, yep, our 48,000 green circuits ready to be sent anywhere they might need to go. Well, the robots are trying to get here, and they eventually will. And when that happens, all of this should be ready to go, but we probably won't really be able to test it, just because power requirements of the factory are pretty low now since we're not making anything. So I think we've taken that as far as we need to for now. And that's the end of this episode. On the next one, we're going to build some power armor and upgrade ourselves with some personal bots. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.